2025 was a tough year for a lot of real estate agents, and 2026, well, it's going to be a lot of the same. So how can you as an agent adapt in 2026 and create more conversations that turn into more transactions and more closed sales? Because truth is, the stat came out, 72% of agents did not sell a single home in 2025. Is that going to be you in 2026? My guest today is Jeff McElroy, an elite agent with Real Broker and now a platinum top 50 winning agent of Austin, which is a huge feat. We're going to go through today and we're going to talk about some of the things that agents should be doing in 2026 to get deals now and the things that they should stop completely. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Jeremy. Glad to be here.
Yes, this is the new format for Agent Tactics, so it's good to have you here. Let's talk about some of the things that you do. So I want to talk about social media, but I'm going to pivot real quick. You do something that a lot of agents don't do. A lot of agents run to social media to think that that's the way they're going to get business. They watch me do YouTube, they watch other people do Instagram, and they think this is the way to get business. You don't necessarily do that. While you do those things, your number one superpower is connections and conversations. Why is that how you started your year, and what could agents be doing?
Well, it's the only thing I can really control is intentionally connecting with people. And that's how everything starts. So on the social media, I have gotten some leads from social media from people that I met 2 and 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I've connected with them on social media. They see that I'm in the business. They may like my content, or they may see that I'm being authentic, and then they connect back with me. So if you look at any given day, I'm going to talk to 15 people every day. It's just automatic. It's a non-negotiable if you want your business to grow. Of that, I'm going to ask them to refer me to other people, but not in a weird type of way. But the real key is I'm going to intentionally talk to somebody I don't know every single day. It's real easy as agents to say every day somewhere around 8 to 10 people just in the course of the transactions and the people you're talking to, the other agents, and feel like you're really busy. But if I look at my tracker, I call it a greatness tracker. Actually, somebody else told me to call it a greatness tracker because that's what it is I have to intentionally make sure I'm reaching out to somebody new. And ideally, that person is going to be of high value, either owns a bunch of real estate, owns a business, has the ability to refer me to other business people. But the intent of each of these intentional calls is to add some value to that person's life, personally, professionally, versus me, begging for them to give me business.
Well, I think that's what I've noticed is definitely your superpower is that you've done that. Give us some examples of conversations that you've had that have led to business. And I actually want to talk right after that about your greatness tracker and how you actually go about picking the people to talk to.
Well, it happens every day. So let's say I have a listing. This happened last week. We have a new listing that's going on the market. So I see somebody sitting in their car pulling out. And I thought to myself, I haven't got a lead from this sale yet. I mean, it hasn't even gone live yet. So I think every transaction, a good metric is if you don't get 2 more deals from that deal, you either did a really crappy job or you did a really crappy job. Mm-hmm. With the relationship, either a crappy job with the listing or a crappy job with the relationship. So I see somebody in their car, so I flag the person over. I say, hey, can I ask you a question? Whose car is that? And she says, that's this person. And I said, do you think where does she live? Oh, she lives over here in that house in the front. Oh, where do you live? I live in the house in the back, but I'm getting out of here. Why? I hate all this construction. I hate this neighborhood's changing. It's too loud, et cetera. Real common in the areas where they're building new homes. I said, well, do you own the house? Well, no, I have a landlord. Well, what's she going to do when you move out? Well, she said she's going to sell the house. Great. What's her name? Lead. It's not that complicated. Mm-hmm. So in these neighborhoods, I've gone through and I've analyzed who's there. I'm not doing mailers and waiting for people to call me. I'm learning the names of the people in the neighborhood. So if I see somebody in the front yard, I'm going to go address them by their name. Are you Todd? How do you know? Yeah, I just saw on the tax record, I'm the agent that's helping Fred sell his house. Just thought I'd come over and say hi. Mm-hmm. How long you lived here? And I just have a regular conversation with the person. And those turn into future clients or people who can refer me to somebody else. Then when I go back, I'm going to keep track of Fred's name in my greatness tracker. I'm going to send Fred a handwritten thank you. Hi, Fred. Great to meet you. If there's anything I can ever do for you, please let me know.
So follow up.
You're waiting for something complicated, right?
Yeah.
But that's essentially the playbook, right? Is meet somebody new every day, express some gratitude, and then follow up with them. And if they're on social media, I'm going to connect with them on social media, and then hopefully they'll connect back with me, and then they'll see that I'm actually in the real estate business. I have listings. I coach people. I do things that are valuable to the community, and then hopefully at some point in the future, I may have a relationship with them.
Interesting. So you're basically just putting people into your contact book.
Essentially, yes.
Right.
Correct.
So what about finding people you don't like? Let's say you said something about making calls. Who are you calling? How are you figuring out who to call? What does that look like?
Well, the most important, so if you're an agent who's been in business for a while, what you should be doing right now is calling every single one of your past clients. Right? And so I do that every Thursday. I'm going to call intentionally. I'm going to call clients that I may not necessarily call. Every Thursday, I'm going to call at least 5.
Okay.
Right? On Mondays, I'm calling people that are important to my business, right? So people that are referring people to me, people that I want to have a business and personal relationship with, and I'm calling them every Monday. On Tuesdays, I'm following up with all of my clients that are currently under contract and buyer rep type contracts. And when it's appropriate, I'm also asking them who else they know. So if you think of like your current clients, the ones you're actively working with, people are thinking, as soon as I get this sale done, I'm going to ask them for a referral. Well, right now, they're telling all their friends they're selling their home. They're telling all their friends they're buying a home. And what are they saying? Yeah, I'm thinking of selling. Yeah, I'm selling too. I'm going to list my house too. That's the perfect time to ask for a referral. Right? And then on Wednesday, I'm going through my database. And so I've collected, last year, I probably got about 300 plus leads of people, not just the names in the street, people who are referred to me or people I know that have some real interest in real estate. And so I have, 4 years of those. So I'm just starting with the most recent and going backwards. So my assistant and I, we sit down and say, who can we intentionally call that isn't asking us to call? And what can we talk to them about? So I'm calling all those people in that database, trying to create new opportunity for them, which then creates opportunity for the team. Thursday's past clients, and then Friday becomes kind of a catch-up day. But that's where I need to make sure that I'm actually contacting people of high value. That could be builders, attorneys, people who own lots of land. So I'm intentionally doing that on Fridays. So I'm making about 75 contacts a week, sometimes 80. I'm seeing somewhere between 10 and 15 people a week. I'm sending at least 20 handwritten thank yous a week. And I generally will generate somewhere between 5 and 7 leads per week. And that's the secret to the business.
That sounds so complicated.
Oh, yeah, and I'm also occasionally posting something on social media.
Occasionally, yeah.
And so if somebody asks me a question, I might record the answer and just post it.
Right.
And so it's really, really thought out as a strategy of just sharing something that I think could be useful to other people. And then we'll highlight some, I have a lot of agents that follow me, so I'll also highlight the properties we're taking to market, just let them know it's available. So that's the strategy.
And that led to 81 transactions last year. What would you say volume-wise?
Close to 50.
So we're saying 50 million last year, slightly posting on Instagram, in Facebook, whatever, and just making phone calls and having conversations, following up with people, sending handwritten cards. 50 million if you're a real estate agent and doing the 0.03% to figure out what that is. That's a pretty good living last year.
We're pretty close to 3%. There wasn't too many discounts, but we're also not offering a discount service.
Right.
We're also investing a lot in
and building a team.
Yeah, we're also investing a lot in the office. I have paid licensed assistants, so I pay people to take great care of my clients. So when things get rough, I don't have anybody doing a calculation of this commission isn't worth it and leaving them alone. They're paid to take great care of the clients, which allows me to have more time to take great care of the clients myself.
Okay, let's say I'm a new agent in the industry, okay, and I don't know who to call. Where should I start?
You're an agent?
I'd say I got my license, I want to sell real estate. I don't have a big Rolodex like Jeff because you've built up years of business, right? Where do I start?
Well, for one, I didn't have a big Rolodex when I started the business. So the key to that is, you need to be in the community. So I think everybody should be doing something athletic and social, and then some type of business association with people that you like, and you're going to meet people organically that way. So when we talked about this earlier this week with somebody new, is I believe you should have some type of a niche or something that you do. Now, let's say if you're residential and you had no interest in investments or commercial, I would say go do some open houses just to meet people and practice talking to people about real estate.
Why do you think agents have such a hard time having a conversation? Because I hear so many agents tell me, I do open houses and they don't work for me. I do this and it doesn't work for me. And I always look at it and go, it's because of your conversations. What skills do you think it takes to actually have conversations?
Well, for one, is nobody really teaches people how to have an open house and how to have an engaging conversation with them, because everybody's there on their own for a reason. One of them, it could be that they haven't found an agent that they could trust, is one. Number two, their agent was too busy to come. That's fine. That's why you do open houses. Or three, they're not really ready to go in the market, or they're confused. They don't have a lender. They don't know where to start. There's a bigger process they need to go to. And agents think that they either need to tell them too much or they don't start at the right place.
Yeah.
So if I have somebody, if I'm doing an open house, for an example,
Okay.
somebody comes in, I'm not going to follow them around the house and sell them the house. I'm going to give them a quick introduction, tell them I'm going to let them experience the house on their own, let them walk through. I may, depending on the situation, show them where the other open houses are. I'm going to show that I'm valuable, but not in their face. But before they leave, I'm going to ask them to register. Perhaps some people will have them register ahead of time. If they don't have a lender, to me, that's a golden opportunity. Start talking to about financing. You might say something like this. If you don't have a lender, I have somebody who's really great that specializes in working with people in this price segment who would be great at walking you through the steps. Would you like that person's information? And they may say, sure. And then you say, well, great, what's your number? I'm going to introduce you. Now you're getting their number and introducing them to your lender, who then becomes part of the sales process for you.
Right.
And so I have very good lenders who will then, oh, you're working with Jeff. He's awesome. He does this. He's going to say all the things that I sound stupid saying.
Yeah.
And now we have two people that add high value to the same person. It improves the probability of me getting that client. I just closed $1 million deal from someone who called on my listing, who didn't know me, that was shopping without me, connected with the lender. The lender helped solidify the relationship that I had, and we closed $1 million deal. So it works all the time. So that's one tactic. The other tactic, which I talked about today with someone on a team, is let's say you get a lead. Number one, we don't also have no paid leads. No Zillow, none of that garbage, right?
Wait, so you're not spending $35,000 a month on Zillow leads?
The only money we spend on marketing is to send gifts and cards to our clients.
Right.
We don't do any paid leads. So let's say I have somebody who wants to look at my listing. Great, I'd be happy to show you. And so what I'm also going to do, depending on the vibe on the phone call, if the vibe is good, it's like, well, there's a couple other houses in the neighborhood. If it would save you some time, let me show you those ones too. But sometimes people push back because the reason they're calling you is they don't want an agent yet. So they come to the listing. I'll say, hey, look, there's two others that compare. Would you like to see those? So the first one, it's all about the property, right? Because they don't know you. They're not going to meet you for coffee and sign a buyer rep to look at your listing, right? So it's all about the property. Let them experience, try to learn something about them so you can add more value to them.
And when you say learn something about them, you mean ask questions?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
This is just regular conversation, right? This isn't are you pre-qualified? It's like,
right.
It's, why are you moving? What's important to you? And sometimes, who else is going to be living here with you? I have a daughter. Why you chose? Oh, do you think you'll enjoy the park, or do you think, you just want to learn something about it, let them explain why they like the house in their own words versus you as an agent shoving the property down their throat. Because they're going to either like or dislike it for their own reasons, and if you're not smart enough to just let them talk, you're never going to know what those reasons are, right? So then if you show them another house, it's going to be more about them, right? Then if you get to a third house, now it's time to see that you've showed some value, and you can talk about what you can do for them.
Right.
Somewhere in that process, you definitely want to show that you're a connector. You can connect them with the resources within the community, whether it be the lender, the insurance agent, something about the schools. You're going to get them, you want to get something that you can use to get back to them that adds some value, right? It's going to be different with every person. Sometimes it's a contractor. Contractors can also get you the deal or cost you the deal, right? So I had one introduced to a contractor. Contractor came in with a bid that was double what it should have been. Almost lost the client because of it.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you need to call me before you're going to do something like this. Well, we never did the triage. I think he was going to show him how he could save him money by reducing the overpriced bid to what it should have cost in the first place. Not my process with clients.
Right.
Right. So
So far, what I've heard from you is have more conversations, ask more questions. Don't spend time trying to sell yourself. Just connect people and build trust.
Right. So in many cases, what you're doing is you're letting the deals happen, not by throwing mud on the wall, but by being very intentional in every conversation that you have. So everybody you meet, you want to listen, understand who they are, because you understand who they are before you can understand their needs, then have a system for follow-up. For us, it's handwritten thank you notes, connecting with them on social media, calling them, thanking for their time, trying to set another meeting.
I think the biggest challenge with what you're saying is most agents put up roadblocks in their ways or in these things. That's too hard. What if somebody does this? They run to the negatives and they don't do those things. If somebody wants to learn how to have better conversations, right, to ask more questions, I had an agent on my team that's no longer on my team that just tried to sell herself in every conversation, and we ended up having to remove her from the team because it was stop selling and ask questions, because you'll learn more, you'll find, because then she was having deals fall apart all the time, right? Because she wasn't listening to what the client wanted and then would just write an offer on a deal instead of say, hey, let me ask you this home, you wanted this thing, but the home you're writing an offer on or wanting to write an offer on doesn't match all these boxes. Are you sure this is what you're wanting to do? Tell me why. Right? Explain to me why this home, why not maybe a different home? And what would happen is some of these homes would go under contract and then they'd fall apart.
Right.
Because then the client would, obviously the market's changed. So then she would so buyers have more options. So then buyers would get in there and then be like, oh, this isn't the home after all. After they get the inspection report, now it's scary, and not have the right conversation. So number one, what should agents do to learn how to have better conversations? And then I want to pivot that to how should they talk to their clients to make sure they keep the deals together?
So one of the things that I do and my team does is I have a rule is we never send documents to sign without sending a PDF first with an overview of what's inside the PDF. Mm-hmm. So I guess there's other places to start, which you talked about, obviously, is understanding what they want. But that's the time to go through what we're going to offer to make sure they understand what we're going to offer and then the process that we're going to take. So it's like, we're going to offer $500,000 for this house, right? And your down payment is going to be this, and it's going to be this amount, and here's the title company. We're going to ask the seller to pay for it. This is the amount of money you're going to need to give to the title company within 3 days of the acceptance of the offer. Mm. This part is refundable, this part is not, right? Then you get to a 10-day inspection period. During the inspection period, we're going to recommend one of our inspectors that you would pay for, and you're going to get a better understanding of the property you're going to buy. We're not positioning it ever as a second negotiation to actually determine what we're going to pay, unless it's appropriate based on the inspection. So we're also starting to set expectations of what's going to happen during that inspection period. And then we say, and these are a few of the other moving parts on the contract, which could be concessions. This is where we're asking the seller to pay my fee, paragraph 12. This concession, we're asking for them to pay your closing cost, to help you pay down the cost of your loan and lower your cash to close. And then as we go through the whole thing is what other concerns do you have about the property? Because we want to know what they're expecting to find. And what we found is we have a very low deal fallout rate because we've already reviewed the seller's disclosure. We've already seen the property in person. We've gone through the contract. We've communicated what it actually means. And it gives us a time to have it. And then we're also providing a seller net. Well, no, actually that's on this side, we're not doing a seller net, but we also have a really good idea that they understand what it takes to actually close. And as a result, we don't have deals fall out very often.
What about the seller side? How does that work?
On the seller side,
How do you set it up for some of the seller side and then the deal? Because I find that a lot of times too, you get a seller who won't take an offer because they don't understand or maybe whatever the reluctance. How do you set up from the beginning with a seller when you take that listing so then when you do get that low offer, you are able to maybe negotiate that?
So we start off every listing with a seller net sheet, which is going to be really close to what it will actually be, including the tax prorations. So we have a sheet that analyzes all of these things. That sheet also includes a rent it versus sell later analysis, because that's what sometimes people would say. Maybe I'm just going to rent it and then sell it later. We have a way for them to rationalize whether that makes sense or not to do it. Usually it doesn't. But everybody's situation is different. So we're showing them the seller net, and I said, here's the seller net. And so I want them to see what my number was. And then if they say, well, I want to list at a different number, I have a separate sheet that has their number on it. And so I'm setting that up for later. So we get back to when the offer comes in, wow, it's really close to what I recommended we start with, right? I'm not trying to be right. I'm just trying to set a context for the conversation. Because as I mentioned, we talked to that other one, we got a little bit more than I thought. In other cases, we get worse. You don't really know, because as agents, we don't determine the final price. And then when an offer comes in, we're presenting that offer on a seller net sheet so they can compare it to where we started.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's another offer, we're creating another seller net sheet. And so by then, they actually understand all the moving parts. This are the escrow fees.
Yeah.
These are the repairs, concessions, commission parts. I'm not embarrassed about putting the commission amounts on there. And then these are the tax prorations, and then we explain how those tax prorations work, minus the loan payoff. So just a hint, you include the tax prorations, and then you explain that they generally will get that amount back plus a little bit more 2 weeks after closing.
Yeah.
Because that's an important fact that many times in Texas, there's $20,000 they get back after they close.
Right.
And if you don't explain it, they think the offer is really low.
Right.
And so it becomes the objective stuff that's already covered. So we can talk about the emotive is when you sell this home at this low price, you're going to buy another home that's also at a low price.
Right.
And that's, for whatever reason, that's a tough one for people to grasp a lot of times, because they want to sell high and buy low. But at the end of the day, if your objective stuff is just spot on and really clear, it allows you to focus on what's really important, moving closer to your kids, or moving closer to your parents, or cutting down the commute. Or what's going to come up when the rates come down is people selling the homes that they bought with 7% mortgages and then moving up with a 6% mortgage to get into Dripping Springs schools or Bowie High School or whatever place for their kids, because that's the natural progression of where people are moving.
Well, so, I mean, look, you have deal fallout as one major problem where you're not having the right conversations. The other problem with sellers, too, is you spend a lot of money marketing a property, and if that falls apart because, number one, you listed it wrong. So I have a lot of agents. I'm going to tell a story. Bryce, you're going to clip this. We're going to clip this one. So, I mean, think about the dollars that go into a listing, and if that listing falls apart because you didn't put the client in the right headspace. I had this client in South Austin this last year that's reached out to me this year again about selling their home, and we'll tell that. So we've spent all the time. I went into this listing. So agents are taking listings and pricing them too high, right? They'll tell their clients, here's where it's going to sell. And then the clients get nervous because it didn't sell there. In this scenario, what happened is the sellers and I were pretty far away on price. And I gone through and tell them like, hey, this is where the price really needs to be. Where you're at's really not where it's going to be, but we'll price kind of in the middle, but I'm telling you it's going to sell for this price. Well, then I spent probably about $3,000. Bryce came out, shot the video. We spent time on that. We did all the preparations to list the house. We got the house on the market. 2 weeks go by. We had a few showings and people weren't necessarily offering on it yet. We'd spend all of this money. 2 weeks in, they get nervous and they're like, you know what? We just think the market's not great. And they terminate the listing.
Right.
So then the seller reaches out to me this year and says, hey, Jeremy, we want to buy the photos off of you because our friend is actually going to stage the house for us and she's going to do all of these things. And isn't it great? And I was like, look, I'm not going to sell you the photos. Your agent can go ahead and get new photos. And he texted me, I hope you enjoy the dopamine hit. And it wasn't about the dopamine hit. I wasn't angry about any of that. What it was is I'd already spent so much time, energy, and effort for them to do that. I knew it was going to happen to the next agent. So the next agent was going to have to go through that. And guess what happened? 30 days on market. She bought photos. She did all of that. And they pulled out.
Yep.
Pulled it off the market. And so I think that's why it's really important for us to make sure we fully understand. Now, I could say that it was all on the seller, but I probably shouldn't have taken that listing because they seemed kind of finicky, but I wanted the listing.
I think you should have taken the listing, right? Because the client always decides, we can only advise,
Yeah.
which is why you kind of have, this is my price, this is your price, but it's not an argument, it's not a negotiation. Yeah. This is the price that would cause your home to sell fast. So if I feel that's going to happen, I'll talk about the price this is the price that would sell fast, this is the price where we're going to be subject to the market. Then if you get into the stage, then the problem becomes is I want you to stage it. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. So they're saying, I want to also direct your marketing, even though you're the expert. So it's okay because I think everybody should have a right to negotiate. But I think in the contract, it needs to be reimbursement of those costs.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Right.
And that's what I did moving forward. In fact, we had two that terminated after that. Obviously, the market wasn't great. And I got at least my marketing fees out of it. Both of those are still sitting on the market as well, by the way, with another agent.
You know, so much of my stuff's by referrals, I very rarely even worry about putting that into the contract. So if somebody sees it, I put that in there, no offense. It's the policy.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just forget because we know the strategy is just gonna work.
Yeah.
But that's a good way to have that conversation because you're also building the narrative that you're going to make an investment, and if you decide to take it off the market, we're making the investment, right? So it's I have a listing right now that's not staged. It probably should be, probably should have, So one way to do it is like, hey, I'll pay for it, but you have to reimburse it. He didn't want it staged.
Yeah.
I can advise. He can decide. It's not that he made a bad decision. That's just what he wanted to do.
Right.
Right. So,
and I'm sure you had the conversation about what staging does. Let's go back to scripts because I feel like what your superpower is when you're having conversations is you understand how to navigate not necessarily scripts, but have conversations. In the past, you did sales outside of real estate, right? You managed sales teams. So you're used to having a conversation and navigate it in the right way. What do you think agents should do to gain skills in order to be able to do that? Should they follow Phil M. Jones? Should they just have conversations with do script practice? What does that look like?
Well, I think, the script practice is going to be helpful, but you need to make sure you're practicing with somebody who knows how to sell correctly.
Yeah.
So I think one of the key parts of selling is to make sure that this was at a conference and I was bored. So I listened to this little, call it a halftime skit at a conference. And it wasn't even really a sales conference, but it was talking about how sales is improv. And this was put on by an improv group, I think in Houston. And they were doing improv, where improv is you have one skit, the next person has to continue that same conversation, and the person loses when he can't continue the same conversation. And the point was in sales, it's all improv. So if somebody says, I want you to stage, and you say, I'm not going to stage, it's the end of the conversation, the sale's over, right? So if it's, I want you to stage, excellent idea, and here's how we do it, right? Well, I like that, but I don't want to pay for it. I totally get you don't want to pay for it, and I have a solution to that, is where I'll pay for it and then you reimburse me at closing. Well, I don't want to reimburse you at all. Excellent. Excellent. I don't want to be reimbursed. The reimbursement will only happen if you terminate the contract. So you're just adding to something that you've already ideally you have some point of agreement to start from, but you never want to end the conversation by putting a hard no.
I like
As soon
that.
as you do the hard no or present yourself as a hard no, it's over, which means don't use the word but, use the word and a lot, and you'll keep those conversations going.
So we're going to talk social media, and then I want to get back to being creative with deals, and then we'll end it there. So social media. A lot of agents think that they have to do social media. They have to do 5 videos on Instagram a week. They have to do all that. That is what's going to get them business. My biggest thing is it's the conversations. We actually have a story where you asked the guy who did exactly what I did on social media, how much business he's getting out of it, and his answer was 0. Yeah. And then when you asked me, and I was like, oh, well, we've closed these deals. I'm referring off of these deals. So how important is social media, and what should agents be doing with social media in order to actually get business out of it?
Well, for one, I don't think it's required to have social media if you're an agent, but I think particularly if you're in residential, you need to have social media. And so I'll give you a social media fail on my part, and then I'll talk about the win. So my thought on social media is that as an agent, you need to have that so people can investigate you, so they know who you are, which means you need to be authentic. So if you're looking to be hired as a listing agent and you don't have social media, it's going to cause a question in the mind of the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
Right. So that for that reason, it's super important, but it's not important for lead generation. I don't think that's the point. I talked about your channel. You hit an inflection point where you're getting leads because you've built something around who you actually are, and you're connected with people and you're earning leads. But someone who's brand new, that's not what they should be doing. But you also need to be posting the right type of things. I had a past client who was a great client who decided to go with another agent. And the reason was, I want to hire somebody who's more involved in residential real estate. And they were selling a property that was actually 2 properties that were inside the infill zone, in the development zone, in an area where I'd spent about 40 acquisitions of lots. So I had intimate knowledge of the product type and the spacing and the buyer profile and these things. I mean, the agent they chose was someone they knew before who I really like. I actually talked to her yesterday. So I have 0 ill will towards her or them. But here's where I failed. Multiple ways. Where I failed was my social media didn't show any of the residential stuff, and I won an award for being in the top 50 of residential sales, and I was doing hardly any of it. And I posted some residential stuff, and I got my first hater who told me I was a drone posting the same content yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll get that.
Yeah, so I said I made it. I got some.
Yeah.
I have some retarded person criticizing me. Good. So that was a mistake, was not showing that I'm actually involved in the space, where had I just done enough of showing the fact that I'm in that space, that would have been good. But the second part, I looked at it, I took for granted that the clients were going to use me again. And I didn't follow up as well as I could have because they moved out of town. So to me, the second part was the fail, not the first part.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. So what would your advice be then for social media? Be on there all the time, or just use it as a...
Post one thing a day.
Post one thing a day.
You know?
But more geared towards real estate.
I think there's multiple approaches. So you do all, we'll call them 3 buckets. There's probably more than 3 buckets. You know, one is, this is what I do during the day. Show yourself doing stuff that humans do, right? I go to the gym. You know, I'm doing these high rocks things. I like to run. I like to play golf. I spend time with my son. I think that's important because people will choose the person they think is a good person before the person they think is the best realtor 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Right? The other is going to be highlight the properties that you're selling. Your sellers want to know that you know how to market their properties, and I think that's important. And then the third is providing some context and education and information that shows that you're valuable, that you show who you are authentically.
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
And so those things are different. Authentic in business, authentic in life, And then, oh, by the way, I also sell real estate.
I love it.
So
I love it. Okay. So look, you, this whole last year, not only just sold real estate, like residential, but you create a lot of conversations doing things like flips, wholesale deals, unconventional transactions, doing things like seller financing. What would your best recommendation for agents to do getting ready for 2026 or in 2026 as we're
already
here?
Number one, call all of your past clients, send them all a letter and apologize for being a shitty agent and being bad at follow-up. That's where I would start.
Clip that. Okay.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's where I would start, is contact all your past clients, apologize to them for not following up with them better. Otherwise, I'm going to steal their clients.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of room for everybody, right? And then I would really focus on giving referrals to people who have the ability to give you referrals. I've given 3 referrals today.
Yeah.
I've given 3. I haven't gotten any back yet. I feel that it's my job to get 5 referrals for every 1 I get back. That's how my brain is wired. And I know if I do that, I'm going to probably get about 300 referrals, and I'll hit over 100 this year.
Amazing.
That's the right way to focus on it. And then be very intentional every single day. Contact somebody that you wouldn't have contacted that's of high value. That's a business owner, property owner, builder, attorney, and be okay sucking at it at first.
What about, what other skills do you think agents should learn in this year?
What other skills?
Skills, yeah. If there's a new, because I mean, look, I don't know a whole lot about seller financing. I don't know a lot about these things. Should they just learn these skills to learn them, or should they learn them because that's something they want to get into?
Well, I think the way you're going to learn this stuff in real estate, because it moves so fast, is you need to be willing to partner with somebody or mentor somebody on a deal. Let somebody else show you how to do it. Even if you make less money, it'll speed up your process by a huge amount of time. That's all. That doesn't matter whether you're brand new or if you're experienced, right? So I think being okay working a deal with somebody else just for the knowledge is super important.
I love it. All right. Anything else?
So there's so much. We could just keep going.
I know we could go so much. All right, look, if you're an agent and you love what Jeff said and want to learn more, he is with Real Broker. You absolutely can reach out to him. One of the greatest things about being at Real Broker is that we have a collaborative community. Why do you think I brought Jeff on today to talk about these things? So definitely reach out to him. If you're an agent that's struggling and you're looking at maybe getting into something a little bit different and you need questions about wholesaling, again, I think Jeff is definitely a good source for those things. Thank you for following Agent Tactics. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share with a friend. And if you like this style of content, let me know in the comment section. That way I know you like it and we'll create some more like it. We'll see you in the next video.